Hi, and welcome to the results from round 5. So you've completed 5 rounds and we have 1 round left to go. So in round 5, we have Team FB who earned 933 points. Incredible. But really, any team earning over 400 points, and if we scroll down, we have about 2/3 of the class earning over 400 points, which is terrific for round 2. And then the profit margins, remember, we started off at 40%, and now most teams are above 50%. So if we go, let's go to the bottom. Okay, so all teams are above 40%, which is good. Finally got that message across. Now, if you're in the 40 percentile area, like these teams, you're falling behind. This is where you should have been in rounds 1 or 2. So then now that we're in round 5, we see a majority of the class is above 50% level. And we have a few teams. We have 3 teams who are above 70%. Actually, I'm sorry, make that 4 teams above 70%. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 or so teams above 60%. So that's how you win the game. You have to get those profit margins up to please investors, increase your share price, and increase all your profit-oriented ratios. Okay, so let's go to let's look at the graphics. So let me just resize this a bit. All right. There we go. Okay, so if we look at net profits per team, we can see a nice upswing in net profits. With this team is at 302 million net profits, and we have a number of teams over 270 or 250 million dollars in net profit. It's amazing. So you can see how it really starts to take off in round 5 from round 4, and then round 6 will be even higher. Total points per team, again, most teams are achieving close to 500 points. If you look at this 500 point line, you see most teams are close to or surpassing 500 points, where most teams are at 400 points or higher. So I would say that 3/4 of the class are earning between 400 and 500 points per round. Now, so we see that FB lost 154 points in the previous rounds. What's great about this simulation is if you do have a bad round, you can more than make up for it by making the right choices the next round. So you see how, in average here, you take 154 minus 943, and you get close to a 400 point per round average. So even if you have a bad round, if you reverse that and make the right decisions, you can recoup those points lost in the previous round. Okay, stock price. We have Tech Part 2, the highest stock price of 179, which is followed by Last Minute Cars and Guacamole. Sales per team. We also have Benny Auto Group in number 1 in sales, followed by Cool Joe. And the trick is to convert those sales into profits. Okay, so we have one team here that really, FB. So FB went from $7 of earnings per share and rebounded to $26 earnings per share. So they really got the message about increasing profit margins, which increases earnings per share. And you see the results, some of the highest points of the round. Continue to have Tech Part 2 and V. Actually, Tech Part 2 continues to be first, but a new team, V, of $27 per share, has entered the numbers 2 position of earnings per share. Okay, so that's just a quick overview. And you see that for earnings per share, we have a I don't listen, which are the students who don't listen, aren't in the team, and were just placed into this group and still remain to stay there, have the lowest earnings per share, as they've basically done nothing. So I should rename the team I Do Nothing. So Cars, some of these teams at lower earnings per share. So you can see there's a real bandwidth of teams' performance from the bottom to the top, which is great. And same thing with stock price. back to the overview board. So current round points are important, but let's look at total points. Okay, so total points, we have some teams well above 2,600 points, which means they have already enough points to get an A in this project. However, doesn't mean they don't need to fill out round 6, because if they don't complete round 6, they'll lose points. So in order to maintain their lead or increase it, they still have to complete round 6. Plenty of teams, if you're at this level, 2,000 points or higher, you could still easily make the remaining points you need for that last round to get the full score. And of course, the higher up you are on this list, all the way to 2,500, you have a really great chance of getting the full points for the simulation. Now, if you're down here below 2,000, you have a lot of work cut out for you to increase your score. And to do that, I would say start playing some practice games. Watch the whole set of videos I created for this class on the simulation. And that would be important to getting to that point. Now, as with every round, I do go in and I do give you an example of choices I would make for the round. So let me just move this up here and go to sales. Okay, so this is team 2, the team that we had a few students in, but they dropped the class, so I've been running it as an example team for the class. So their overview points, they made 484 points for the round. And so that's good. It's over the 400 points, between 400 and 500 points. And profit margins, like I did last round, increased. So that's important. That's what you really have to try for, increasing these gross profit margins, because they trickle down to all these other ratios. If I look at the industry page, okay, and I go to team 2, I see that the cumulative points are 2,400. So like a typical team, I started off strong, had a tough round this in year 2 and year 3, and then rebounded in year 4 and 5. So all I need to do is garnish a couple hundred points in the last round to seal in my first place, my full points position. But in this industry area, I could look at other teams to see what they've done and what choices they made. So this is also a good area for researching. So typical teams should start off by reviewing their assessment. So I see my revenues are low, reviewing their charts, specifically the industry chart. So here in the industry chart, that was cool. Oh, actually no, we did this already. Team performance chart. So down here we see that my forecasts are lower than my actual sales. So my actual sales are lower than the demand. So I forecasted too low, and I gave up a lot of potential demand that cost me in this last round. So I would check the industry out to see what other teams have done, look at my financials, and then go back to the sales page. And I see that now I left off at 65% current profit margin, so I want to improve that. So as I fill out I'm going to try to improve. Yes, so I was able to not only increase my characteristics, I was able to increase my profit margin as well. And then I might want to maybe rearrange some of my characteristics here, and then increase my forecast. So again, for forecasts, you should always go to the student manual and then look in the student manual to see what the average sales are going to be. So since I think my sales have been trending higher than average, I'm going to start forecasting a little higher. Since I have the ability to make great cars this round due to my operational cost reductions that I put in place. So I have, because I made those operational cost reductions, I'm able to build better cars and have higher profit margins this round. So let's see here. Okay. So I'm going to make a few tweaks here. Okay, so for this particular car, I wasn't able to increase the profit margins that much because I'm trying to sell a lot of vehicles this round. So it's still improved. Okay, as long as I get that profit margin up by at least 4 percentage points, I'm happy. Okay, so moving into truck. Okay, so I wasn't able to get a profit margins because this move that down a bit. So I'm just manipulating my inputs a little bit to try and get to a little bit higher profit margins. I got two points here. So you can see how in the last round, trying to keep up with customer expectations is even harder. But I want to make sure that I get those at least 4 points increase in my gross profit margins. All right. So again here, I'm going to have to make some modifications to try to get to that high, even though I have those additional cost reductions. The expectations of customers are moving up higher than I can accommodate. Okay, so this is quite a challenging round if you haven't made enough operational investments, which I have, and still it's hard to really get those 4 percentage points of I got that 65. So I'm aiming this round to at least get 4 percentage points higher on my gross profit. All right. Okay, moving into marketing, which I'm going to do separately because it takes a long time to set this up, but I'm going to look at where I was last round and where the market's moving next round. And I think one of the reasons I had high demand the last round that I wasn't able to fulfill is I over advertised. So hold on while I complete this. Okay, so now I'm in production and I'm going to have to definitely buy some production plans to meet my increase in sales. So that's going to be very expensive, but But luckily this round I don't have to make any operational investments. So and I don't want to reduce my operational investments because that will make me lose points because there's a year-over-year comparison. So I'm going to keep them where they are. Okay, so let me submit that. And finally, just check out my financials. So by the last round, if you don't have a huge surplus, you've done something horribly wrong. And I have a $369 million surplus. So I'm going to buy back whatever I can in my stock. I'm going to retire funds of my long-term debt, short-term debt, and stock equity. Okay, so I'm going to complete the round. And so those would be some of my suggestions of the things to think about and look at as you're completing round 6. Now, I'm not saying make the same exact inputs I made, but I'm just saying there's an example of what I'm looking for and I'm focusing on when I'm doing that last round. Okay, so that's the video reviewing round 5. I wish you best of luck to round 6 and getting all the points you need to get the full score for this simulation project. Good luck, and I'll talk to you soon.